I was like,
There you go.
"Oh, the taper." Now you're like,
All right, welcome everyone to the Public Works Committee meeting.
Good morning.
Good morning. Chair will entertain a motion to approve minutes of the previous meeting. Mr. Bruno, motion, Mr. Thomas on the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carried. Thank you. Everyone, Kevin, what would you like to start with?
Let's start with the solid waste agenda, if we could.
We can. First, let me open up the privilege of the floor. Anyone wishing to address the committee regarding solid waste can do so at this time. And it's probably not on the agenda, but I'll just go out there. Kevin, just quickly, if you could give us an update on filling on the solid waste position.
I have one interview scheduled for next week. I'm hoping to have two. Based on that, those are the only two candidates that even qualify for the position. The rest of them, while good candidates, they just don't have the background that we require for that position.
Right, and the grant application we have with DEC, have you heard anything on
That's actually part of our discussion item. So if you'd like me to get into those.
well, let's move into it. Let's
Okay.
take our first item.
So the first item we have on there is the organics management plan. We had the committee provide us all their comments to the final plan or final draft plan. And we've addressed most of the comments if they need to be addressed, and the plan will be delivered to me final as of Monday. So we will be complete as a plan as of Monday of this coming week. The next item we have on there is it's the EPA grants, not DEC grants, the EPA recycling grant. I had sent an email back in June because we kept hearing that they were going to make announcements early summer. I received an email back July 20th that said, "Thank you for your inquiry. Sorry for the delay. No announcements have been made yet. We received a record number of applications and are almost ready to provide selection announcements. We anticipate providing an update within the next few weeks." So that was as of July 20th. So nothing as of yet, but as soon as I hear, I will let the committee know.
Okay, very good. Have you haven't started working on a plan B yet, have you?
Not as of yet.
Okay, Mr. Bruno.
Thank you. This grant, what is that? The amount, or what is it? Encompass, or
That grant is the solid waste infrastructure recycling grant, and it's for a recycling center. We have approximately, we applied for approximately 1.7 million. That would cover the cost of facility, design, cost of a vehicle or two, and then some of the equipment that would be in the facility. But again, this was a similar to the OES building. It was a limited facility, very limited with electrical. It would have
Bare
heat in it
bones.
because bare bones is basically a bare bones type project. Yep.
thank you. I'm just curious.
Yeah, if we don't receive a grant on this, it's something that we'll have to bring to the budget committee this
Yes.
fall.
Right, okay.
It's that important.
Yeah,
At least at a minimum, for some type of maybe pole barn structure, as well as for a vehicle. The biggest thing is having a vehicle to be able to haul the material.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else under solid waste?
That's all I have.
That's all. Privilege of the floor.
Hi, everybody. I'm Diane Collins from Zero Waste Warren County. Our local group working on modernizing transfer stations, and I have no updates right now, but next month I hope to. I'll be talking to Kevin a little later today about a kind of plan B, which is far less expensive than the EPA grant. But I'm happy to announce that Zero Waste started collecting food scraps at the Glens Falls Farmers Market last Saturday. So every Saturday we'll have that going on, reaching out to the public about composting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Diane. And thank you for your support and leadership. Anyone else? All right, then, Kevin.
I think we'll move right into Public Works, Parks and Rec. We don't have any action agenda items. We just have a couple things for information for discussion, and I can turn it over to Dean if you like to.
Well, sir. First is a public announcement, a reminder, if you will. The Shriner Circus is going to be in town at the Warren County Fairgrounds at the field across from the main campus of the fairgrounds in front of the Countryside Adult Home. If you haven't been, this is their second year they've come out to visit. Our local contact, Wendell Beadnell, takes care of us, but it's nice. They still exist. The big tent does exist in that form and fashion for family entertainment. 90-minute programs. I have some information I can leave here. And there's tickets. They've handed out tickets and stuff for children. So any questions, more than happy to answer that. That'll be at the fairground site.
Any questions for Dean? Is that the beyond the luncheon? Enjoyed your speech.
Thank you.
Enjoyed your speech.
Thank you, sir.
If I could call it that. All right, thank you.
Very nice.
Anything else for Dean?
I may have omitted, I apologize. The date is Wednesday, August 2nd at 6 o'clock. Thank you, Mr. Bruno.
Kevin?
That's it.
The next item we have on there is RFP for the use of the railroad. So back in 2020, we were approached by Rev Rail, who was the only the only company around that was doing anything with rail bikes, and we entered into a license agreement with them. Back there in 2020, we discussed the license agreement that would start, I think 2020 was $30,000 a year. Then in 2021, it was to go up to 35,000. And then no less than 40,000 in 2022, 23, 24. Since then, we have had amendments to the license agreement, them, as well as we having other individuals came to the county or approach the county and using the rail as well. With that being said, I had talked with Larry Ellman, who said that we should be most likely going out for an RFP for the use of the tracks. And I'm not sure if Robert has anything on that or if he had talked with Larry about it. But there's one or two things we could do. I know there's other individuals who want to use a track. We could entertain the original agreement that said we could go through 2024, but that was always on the approval of the committee as well as myself, that we had no issues with, which we haven't had any issues with Rev Rail, or we could move forward doing an RFP for the rail. And I think Larry, and I wish that he was here, but I believe Larry was leaning in the direction of doing an RFP.
You have sufficient time to do that.
We do, and Julie's here. We had recently done another RFP when there was others interested, and Rev Rail still was able to win that RFP. So we have a template basically already in place.
That wasn't awarded.
That's correct. It wasn't a road, right? But we already have a template in place that we can move this forward fairly quickly, I think.
If I might, do you do that as a best bid or as just as a bid?
I would propose that we do it as a best value method. I think that would be the best way to approach this.
Okay. Mr. Brown.
Who currently utilizes the railroad? We have a couple of different entities.
Currently, we have one that uses the railroad, and that is Rev Rail.
Oh, okay.
We had another interested party, as you recall, I believe it was last year. Wild Waters.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, Wild Waters had approached to use a rail, and they were interested in doing a package deal they would take individuals down the river on tubes and such, and then they would also allow them the opportunity to get up on the rail and so it would be a combined package deal that they were looking to do.
But that didn't go anywhere.
Supervisor Bramer, were you looking?
Thanks. I didn't realize, I thought we did authorize that second company to use some. of the
No, we
rail.
did not.
We never went through with that. Okay. I guess my question on the RFP is, I appreciate that you guys could get it done, but I'm sure Rev Rail, they put a lot into using our location and wanting to stay here. Can we make it so that it would not be effective until the following year? It's like January of 2025.
I will defer to County Attorney Elman, who's in the back of the room, if Supervisor Conho will allow him.
I guess I'm thinking, since we said we would go with them through the end of 2024,
This
let's
was,
not pull that rug out from under
yeah,
them.
this was never a 5-year contract with them. It was a year-to-year contract with them.
I understand, but didn't you tell them? Isn't there something saying we would go through 2024?
It was a year-to-year contract. That's what they are aware that it is. A year-to-year.
What did you mention about 2024?
The original resolution said that upon mutual agreement,
Right,
that we would extend to them for 22, 23, and 24 with mutual agreement. Since
Right, but you
then,
said we're not having any issues. Why would we pull that? off?
since then, and with other individuals wanting to use the track, we feel that we would need to go out for an RFP. You can't just, and I'm not an attorney, so I don't want to talk to this and I'll turn it to Larry, but I don't think we can just allow one person to just have the track if there's other parties involved.
No, Supervisor.
Okay, then there's other stuff out there. We should be doing RFPs like the Warren County Fairgrounds. When was the last time we did an RFP for the safari people?
Just last year.
Just last year,
And how many years does that go? One?
I believe it's
I think it's one with annual.
one with a possible 2-year, yeah, possible 1-year extension. So yes, it did go out. And they were the only entity that bid on it or submitted a proposal.
We also,
Let's go. Be my
we
guest.
also do an RFP for property at the airport.
Yes.
I was just thinking of that. What's our agreement with the, I guess that's a whole different thing, our.
But we have
FBO.
gone out for RFP for those.
I know, but isn't that like a 20-year agreement? I just think we're not being fair. If we told them we were gonna go through 2024 and then we're gonna say, oh, we'll just do an
Sure,
RFP.
Alvin.
and Put that at risk for them.
Good morning, Larry Elman, County Attorney. This came to light, first of all, I wasn't here when the original agreement and resolution went through with RevRail. As the new county attorney, I was not present for that. But what has become very obvious is the county has already done one other RFP in the past for a section of the county's rail line, which raised the question in my mind when I looked back to find the RFP for RevRail and found that there was none, that at this point, there's been a substantial change in the interest in potentially the value of the track. And as stewards of county property, we owe it to the county taxpayers to ensure that the proper state process and procedures are used, which is putting out to bid in some form or fashion, and that's not a legal call as far as what that package would look like. The legal call is that there's a need to do a request for proposals on the track. And, who's the best bid and what constitutes the best bid is a decision that would be made based on the request for proposals that the county puts together. But it's clear. I mean, it would be hard for me to defend past December 31st of 2023, the county's prior unilateral granting to RevRail of a right to operate on county tracks without an RFP, given that we've done RFPs, or at least one RFP on another section of track since I've been here.
I guess I'm not recalling exactly what happened, but I mean, we do all recall the giant RFP debacle that we went through regarding the use of the rail line and, engaging with all these people about that. Like, isn't that how we got RevRail after that whole process where we entertained other uses of the rail line? I mean, I don't think we just unilaterally went to RevRail and said, here, you can use the line.
I might not have been at that meeting, but go ahead.
Or I don't even want to go, I don't even want to open that can of worms, so just forget that I said that.
I just wanted to add.
I
before
would
that-
want to see whatever it is, the scope of what we are seeking for the RFP, because there's certain things that I certainly do not want the rail line used for. I don't know what we're talking about here exactly.
For probably recreational use for the rail line. We could call this rail bikes for the rail line and not specify the RFP for something other than that. When you refer to the debacle of an RFP that went out, that was.
I'm
for-
not saying that was our debacle, just.
No, and I'm not saying that you were. What I'm saying is that one, RevRail was already on the line for that RFP. went out.
Oh,
So, because during that, there was whether or not we were going to coordinate
that's right.
with RFP or with RevRail to use the line with whoever might have won that proposal.
That's right. Thank you.
Right. So it wasn't a. Wait, that, but I
No.
know, I understand, and quite frankly, I. Have a hard time remembering the details back then as well as.
Or the order, but
Right,
they were there first, yeah.
I mean, Mr. Wild.
Chairman, thank you. I'm just curious, are we thinking about right to operate on the whole line, or are we doing segments of the line? And then the next part of that is, will we considering that RevRail actually has the line north of us, would we consider selling a portion of the line? Would that be something possible? And the only reason I'm thinking that RevRail's been a great partner. They started with this a number of years ago. And I think we've had a good relationship with them. But I'm not trying to be supportive of them. I'm just trying to think of different options that we might have to be able to extract the value out of this line.
Go ahead.
So I'll answer the first question, Supervisor Wild, is we would put out this RFP for the entire rail. As far as selling, I'm not even going to venture to get into that. I don't have an answer for you. I'm not sure that we can. But that's something more I have to look at.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be clear here. I'm sure Ms. Bramer's not concerned that somebody might come in and offer us more money. That could always happen. We would hope that that would happen. But that the operation be as excellent an operation as we presently have. And I just want to make sure we underscore that it's not we're not worried that somebody might come in and offer us more money. It's the type of operation, and not only which includes safety and includes promotion and how many people are brought to our area and all those kinds of things. And I would hope that if we go out for an RFP that for a best bid, that those would be the kinds of things that would go into our this committee's evaluation. And I think that, you know, that's understandable. It's my point. My point is that that's understandable. Okay.
One last, I guess, caveat to add to this is there is a section of track currently right now that is washed out. That is up by the Glen. I do have reserve money, railroad reserve money that we can use to fix that section of track. I would have to transfer the money out of reserve to be able to use this. With that being said, we haven't put a plan together to fix it. And we weren't in a rush because no one's using that portion of a track. So.
Right. And of course, the backdrop on all of this is the Surface Transportation Board and the future of the line relative to rail and which is another matter, of course. Ms. Bremer.
Thank you. Just on that, I guess a couple of points, you know, for our collective memories, we do have standing a resolution that says we are going to go forward with abandonment so that we can rail bank and do a trail on this line. There is a standing resolution that says that. we didn't go forward with that because of all of the issues that to the north of us. And I'm looking at you, John, so that you know this as we go forward, because you probably, I'm sure you don't know all this history. You know, that we were going to seek permission from the STB, but there was so much going on with the Surface Transportation Board relative to the line north of us that we didn't go forward with that. Now there is an owner of that line, and I believe it's RevRail, and there may be another backer who would maybe potentially be interested in buying our line for, you know, rail to trail purposes or rail biking, recreational, non-train usage. So I think before we start putting rail line back on the ground, we should be looking at our standing resolution that says we're gonna go forward with the rail banking through STB. It's an official process. I don't know if we're allowed to do that though, and just leave the line washed out.
So we look forward to your complete report. Authoritatively at our next meeting. No, it is complicated and involves the state of New York, as you know, and it involves a lot has happened since, and so maybe a little status update would be a good thing. I would agree with Ms. Bramer on that. And but I think Frank,
I think if we're gonna consider selling it, I think we need to check into the grant dollars that were received by this county to fix that rail line, and we better make sure that we're not gonna be on the hook back to the federal government or the state or whoever we got the money from to repay that grant money. If it's beyond that time frame, that's fine, but it needs to be looked into.
and I'm not sure exactly what properties or what stretchers are involved anymore because it's been too long, but there were also reverter issues that exist relative to it no longer being used for rail, and there was a certain approach that the state of New York was using in an effort to try to keep that from being exercised. So it's but in any event, yeah, no, I think getting current on that, John, would be important. And I think that again, I think if we're going to go out for an RFP, I think it's very important that the RFP speak to Ms. Bramer's concerns to make sure that whoever the successful bidder is, that it be someone that can maintain it, operate it to the standards that we have grown to. Any other thoughts? Okay. Anything else, Kevin?
No, not for Parks and Rec. We're into DPW now.
Okay, DPW, I'll leave that.
What do you need?
Which everybody gets two, so there's 2 different ones. Make sure you got each one.
Alrighty.
So the first item we have on the agenda is to amend contract. This is with GHD. Since Thomas had left DPW to go on to bigger and better things, I had asked GHD, because we didn't have necessarily myself or others in the office have time to do some of the tasks. One of the tasks that we had was to reach out to other municipalities to discuss kind of how they're doing their composting, and a little bit about their composting facility. So I think it was a $3,900 task. We had originally in that budget had $80,000. So this brings the budget up to $79,934. So this is the amendment to add that into their contract.
Mr. Bruno, bring it forward in a second to bring this forward for consideration. Mr. Thomas, thank you, Frank. Any discussion?
You're gonna have to catch me up real quick. Is this what we're talking about right now? The things we're.
No, that's the
Okay.
DOT. It's one that'll be in a moment.
Right then, this is a cost incurred as a result of having to keep things moving forward.
Yes.
All right. Ms. Brennan?
Thanks. I don't know if it's specific to this, but as far as moving things forward, what is next now that the plan is done?
Next is to look for some funding for a pilot program.
Anything else we can do without money?
No.
We,
We could ask
I think,
for public
I think
relations.
that we need to, because of the importance of this, I think we really need just, have a plan B. As you know, we originally had requested ARPA funding, we received ARPA funding, then we went to EPA, and we're waiting to hear from EPA, but, in the end, if it's important and it's something that we really feel needs to happen, you know, we need to be able to explain that to everyone. There was an analysis, Kevin, that you did initially in terms of the cost benefit. I would ask that you dust that up and update it, and maybe bring that to the next committee if you could. So we get current again on what we're looking in terms of a cost structure and what we're looking at. Because I think there, at least from my perspective, you know, there's going to have to be a decision. The decision is going to have to be made at some point. And even if we secure the EPA funding, right? There's a host of decisions that are going to have to be made. And I think we should all be prepared to participate in that process. And ultimately vote.
Right.
Whether we move forward or don't move forward. Right. All right.
Next item we have on there is a new contract.
I don't think we need to vote on.
Apologies.
You're done.
Right there, yeah.
Second.
On the contract, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, next item we have on there is a new contract. This is for tree removal. This is bid for removal of trees in Bolton and on several county roads. The bids came in yesterday afternoon. I did not have the opportunity to analyze the bids this morning. It looks as though there was quite a range of numbers that came in, from a low of 20,000 to a high of 100,000 for tree removal. There's about 42 trees to be removed around the county. We have already exceeded kind of my service provider agreement and removing trees for the year on some of our roads, so we had to go out to bid for this one. So I do have money within my budget to be able to do this under contracts. But I'm going to review the bids today, and then I'll recommend before the board meeting who we award the contract to.
So our action today would be to
award a contract to be determined.
to award
Yep.
the contract. I mean, I know comment to the committee is this is a matter of public safety. We don't take these things down indiscriminately. They fall on things that we wish they wouldn't fall on. Several roads and power lines and you name it. So they're dangerous. So, all right then.
Motion.
We need a motion. Mr. Bruno on the motion, second. Mr. Thomas on the second. All those in favor, with the caveat that Kevin will let us know the successful bidder prior to the board meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, everyone.
Next item we have on there, and I apologize because I'm just looking at this now and I see under 2, there's rationale 1 and second rationale, but I think that second rationale was supposed to go under number 3 possibly. So this was a maybe not, it was a request to amend grant. The paperwork that we were just handed out is the supplemental agreements with DOT. They just came in yesterday afternoon, so I usually include them as part of my agendas. What I was going to ask for today is that if they come in before finance, I would have brought them then, but they came in yesterday, so they're in your package now. But this is just to amend the grant with a supplemental agreement for DOT, and this is basically the addition of construction funds and basically to close out the projects, because the projects are as of now complete. And that the first one is for County Route 26 over the Brant Lake Inlet Bridge.
All right, let's bring this forward for the discussion. Mr. Thomas on the motion, Mr. Bruno on the second discussion. All right, then. Are we ready for the question then? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? I carry. Next item, Kevin.
Next item, number 4 is basically to increase the capital project with the supplemental funding that we're getting from DOT for the same project.
Ms. Bramer on the motion, second. Mr. Bruno on the second, and further discussion. There being none, we're ready for the question. All those in favor of increasing capital project as explained, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? I do. Next item, Kevin.
The next 2, 5 and 6 are similar to what we just did with 3 and 4, which is to amend the grant and then do increase the capital project. This is for the South Johnsburg Road Bridge over Mill Creek. Capital project H381. And again, it's the same thing for a supplemental agreement with DOT, as well as the increased capital project. And again, this project is completed. This is just to close out the project.
Can we combine these two? Resolution for 5 and 6 from Mr. Bruno, second Kramer, further discussion. We're ready for the question. All those in favor of approving 5 and 6 signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? I carry. Next item, Kevin.
Next item we have on there is, I say apply for grant. I made you all aware of this grant that we had. I thought it was coming through Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Planning Board. But it actually has to be signed by us. I had originally, it was under the impression that it was being signed by them, and then they were providing us the grant. But the paperwork is there. You had already approved going forward with this grant. It's the amount of $75,000, and we're already close to having a consultant on board to start doing the work for us. So we have the grant paperwork. This would be for the chairman to sign for the grant.
Right. Mr. Bruno on the motion, second. Mr. Thomas on the second, further discussion. All those in favor of the application signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? I carry. Next item.
The last item I have on there is a request to basically transfer money out of the reserve motor fuel systems into the 422 for repair and maintenance of equipment to cover the cost of repairs at 5 fuel sites. And there's a slew of repairs that has to be done. And I have the money in that reserve to be able to do that work.
All right, then. Mr. Thomas on the motion, second. Mr. Bruno on the second. Any questions? No. All right, then. All those in favor of the repairs signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Transfer in the repairs signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? I carry. Next item.
The last thing I have on there is just discussion items under project updates under discussion items, and I'm kind of going to go through them. I just handed Supervisor Bruno some of the pictures of the final road. So the in-house, I say in-house projects that we did with the consultants for roads throughout the county are complete, except for 2. One of them is Coolidge Hill Road, which was bid separately, and Diamond Point Road, which hasn't been bid as of yet. We hope that to be a fall project. So all work is completed for the other bids that we put out for the annual paving projects, and they're just reconcile the final quantities for each one of those projects now. Coolidge Hill is at the point of having the tree clearing and the culvert work done, and construction with new drainage structures will commence over the next couple of weeks, and final paving for that will be completed in mid-September. For federal aid projects, Quaker Road, roadside ditch drainage, culvert removals and culvert replacement are still going on. And then pavement rehabilitation work will start actually next week. Amsterdville Road, County Route 19 up in the town of Chester. Final paving work is going on right now for that project. And signing and striping will be done by the middle of August. As of today at 9 a.m., the Dippy Kill Road Bridge over Glen Creek opened up, and as soon as they opened that one up, they closed down the one next door, which is the Glen Creek Road Bridge, and that should be completed by October 1st. Projects that are still kind of hanging out there that we hope to be constructed in 2023 is the Sagamore Road retaining wall. Still having some right-of-way acquisition conflicts. I believe the right-of-way individuals that we were dealing with reached out to County Attorney Elman yesterday to discuss some of the I guess, the process of moving forward with that. Diamond Point is a reconstruction, and they're just finalizing some of the drainage design over there. If any of you are familiar with Diamond Point, it's a very hilly road, and we have a lot of water that comes down through that road. In fact, many years ago, they lost the embankment along that road. So we're having some conflicts with the drainage, but they're solving them, because at the end, we meet Route 9 and we're working with DOT on that project. Peaceful Valley Road is expected to be bid in September, October 2023 for spring construction.
What's the schedule for the Diamond Point?
Diamond Point, we expected to bid it in August, late August, and hopefully under construction for this fall.
Oh, good.
And then along with the Peaceful Valley, Main Street reconstruction in the town of Johnsburg, which goes from New York 28 to New York 28N. Schedule again to be bid this fall for we hope, or we think it'll be a 2024 spring construction. Although I know that the water line work that the town was doing has not even started yet, and they were supposed to be completed by November of this year. I'm not sure where that stands. Good news is, if you haven't seen it yet, my engineers with the proposals that they had submitted for Bridge New York and Culvert New York, we received $5 million in funding for one bridge and two culverts. The one bridge is Hudson Street over Mill Creek in the town of Johnsburg. And then we have Bay Road, County Route 7 over an unnamed water course up on Bay Road by Lockhart Mountain. And then we have the Amsterdville Road over Marshall Brook, which is the culvert that's been giving us significant issues in washing out under any severe rainstorms. We were awarded a $1.5 million for that. So we were awarded $5 million for culverts under Bridge and Culvert New York.
Yeah, bravo.
Thank you.
Bravo. That's not automatic. That's
No.
funding that's applied for and secured. So good compliments to you and all your people that were involved in that.
Thank you.
Mr. Bruno.
What's the sequence for the Quaker Road pavement rehab? Are they gonna, is it west, east, or?
I believe, but don't quote me on this. I think they're going to start west to east. I think they're going to start at 9 and work towards 32.
Does that require any lane closures? And I imagine.
It will. A lot of that, there will be, most of that work will take place at night. So less of an impact to traffic. So they'll be out there with light plants, and they will shift people in one direction or another.
Okay, thank you.
And given the condition of Diamond Point Road, that's a very important project to take place this fall. I would hate to think that we're going to try to service that road through the winter.
We expect it to be constructed this year. It's just, as I said, the drainage is an issue through there. And I think through the years, it was temporary patches, and even to the drainage was done. And we're going to make it right.
I mean, that's,
Significant amount of traffic on that.
yes, especially this time of year.
But for that, it's a long way around.
It is.
Thank you. Can we back up just for a second on the $75,000 award for the culvert plan?
Culvert assessment. Yes.
You said that we have a contractor and they're getting ready to do the work. What exactly is?
Not
the
a
work?
contractor, a consultant on board. We have term agreement contracts in the county with multidisciplinary engineers. We have 5. We have tentatively awarded it to one of them to start doing this work.
What is the work?
Culvert
Any-
assessment to
As-
review all the culvert. This funding is for the culverts that exist within the Lake Champlain Basin, which there's about 319 of those, I believe. We also have contract money that we have in place, which we did budgeted last year to do kind of a county-wide culvert assessment, and we have over 1,500 culverts within the county. So this will provide us information on size, type, whether they're no longer needed, whether they're running dry. This will give us a full assessment on every culvert on every county road within the county. And then from there, we can determine what needs to be replaced. So we're not getting caught off guard with, such as Bay Road, losing that culvert, the one over in Stony Creek. We currently have one up on County Route 11 that's collapsing on us. Luckily, it's outside the driving lanes, but it is deteriorating fairly quickly. So this will give us kind of a good kind of overview of what we have for culverts, what needs to be replaced, what is undersized, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think that's important from the whole perspective of we're getting the 100-year storms
Yes.
more frequently.
Exactly, in light of what.
Well, you don't want to be improving the road and then finding out later that the culvert was
Undersized.
deficient or is condition, it needed to be replaced and wasn't replaced, because some of these culverts are very deep on County Route 11. Some of those culverts are very, very deep.
On that, aren't we gonna try to do some like bottomless ones?
We are, yeah, three-sided culverts. Yep. We will, in fact, I'm not sure that the one on County Route 11 will be like that, but these two that I talked about today that we got through Culvert, New York, most likely they will be three-sided structures. So the problem is with the 1.5 times the bank stream width criteria from DEC, these we think would be a three-sided structure are turning into bridges. That's what we've experienced. The good thing that, I don't know if it's a good thing or not, with the 100-year storms or 500-year storms that we've had, I guess I want to say in my time here over the past 15, 16 years is we've always upsized our culverts to match kind of what the stream conditions show, so that next time we have one of those storms, we're ready and our culverts don't wash. So, but there's still quite a few. I mean, there's over 1,500 culverts.
And some are old, just old.
Some, yeah, they are. Yep.
They are, and just to accent the point, I mean, we had a situation where we couldn't replace the culvert because the regulations required it to go to a bridge. Because they only allow you to go so wide with the culvert, and they don't allow you to do them side by side. So what ends up happening is, I forget what a switch culvert maximum is. I forget whether it's 20 feet or 30 feet, but once you get beyond that, now you're into bridge construction, which is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, it's 20. Yeah,
It's 20.
Yeah.
Now you're into a whole different, situation financially and otherwise, environmentally and otherwise. So the assessment, I think, may actually move some things into bridge work that.
There are a few that will change most likely to a bridge.
So.
Anything else? The issue comes with that is that you're given on the two culverts we got the max, which is $1.5 million for each. Problem is, if it turns into a bridge, they become much more expensive than $1.5 million. And that culvert New York is capped at that $1.5 million. We cannot go back to them and ask for separate money. So whatever, we'll wait and see what the estimates show, but the estimates showed that if we did cover with those two, $1.5 million would be okay. But if we start getting into right away and such with the bridges, they will become more expensive, and that'll be county funded money.
Question about it. That's why I think having the assessment, and that allows us to do better planning. And to put things down the right lane, so if we can secure funding, we do, and if not, at least we know, have a better idea what something's gonna cost when we get into it, right? Anything else, Kevin?
That's it.
That's it. Anyone else wishing to address the committee at this time under privilege? Mr. Thomas.
Have we given you more thought to adding about a foot of pavement to your road projects? I know you can't do it this year because it's been bid, but in the future,
The width?
yeah, right. To add a couple feet to the width.
Yeah, and I guess it depends on what road we're looking at to do that. It doesn't make sense to do that on every road in the county. There's just some roads that are not traveled by pedestrians, and to truly make it, I guess I want to say the correct width for pedestrian and or bicycle use, we should be doing much wider than a foot. I certainly can, I mean, some of the rural roads are 10-foot lanes, some of them are 11-foot lanes. I think since I've been here, a lot of our federal aid projects are at 11-foot lanes, and we typically try to do a 2-foot shoulder. I can certainly look at some where it makes sense to add, and they're providing or doing the estimates with that now. We talked about that, and I've also just, for everyone's aware of it, I've been working with Barbara Jowdry for a couple months now, and she's been coming to me with information regarding the Adirondack Cycling Advocates and what they're looking for as far as on our roadways. And I think she had this complete streets seminar just recently. Did you get a chance to go? I didn't either. And that's what we would look to do with some of that, the complete streets, start adding some of that on.
Yeah, but I understand you can't go the full 5 feet.
Yep.
Recommend that's just ridiculous. But if you added another foot to the foot that's already there beyond the white stripe.
Yep.
That gives 2 feet, and that makes it much safer for if you meet a bicycle, if there's somebody bicycling and you meet two cars come together. Right now, I'm surprised there aren't more accidents than there are. Because to me, it's very dangerous.
Yep.
Because the car, if you meet the bikes, you gotta pull out across the yellow line, and if another car's coming,
You were gonna say.
I just say one of the concerns that I have in doing that, and Supervisor Thomas, I know you're very aware of it, because even Warrensburg Road is similar to that, or Stony Creek Road is. I have some very steep embankments, ditches along the edge of the road. If I move out a foot, I start to push my embankment out, and I can't do that for most of the time because a lot of the county roads are roadway by use. That's not something I've maintained. So then I get into right away acquisition. But we will certainly look at every road project that we go into, and that's what they started to do this year when they did their inspections. What roads can we do that? What roads can we add a little bit more pavement, just to provide a wider shoulder? Not saying necessarily it's for pedestrians or bicyclists, just to provide a wider shoulder.
Yeah, we had this discussion at the last meeting. I think it's a worthy discussion in terms of our paving standard, because I wonder sometimes what the cost differential is anyway, by the time we do a regular shoulder, and by the time you have to maintain the shoulder during storm events and other kinds of things over time, as opposed to having the macadam surface. The shoulder is an impervious thing that we're doing now anyway, and I just wonder, what the cost differential actually might be. It might be a little more on the front end on the capital side, but over the life cycle, it actually might be less. And it would amend our striping contract too, so that we had maybe more clarity in terms of our striping. So I think the whole question, I think, is a worthy question.
I was wondering that on the striping, can you squeeze the lanes in by striping the white closer? You can't do that.
So just to answer that, our roads fall under the guise of what we refer to as AASHTO's Green Book. And under that, there's a highway design, and it's based on speed, based on traffic counts. And that's what we set our lane widths to. That's what we set our radiuses to on curves. I mean, there's a whole criteria about. So we do have non-standard features. But we've always tried to improve those non-standard features as we move forward. But if have and require, based on AASHTO's design, 11-foot lane, I'm not going to propose to drop it down less than 11 feet.
Couldn't you do that though, say for instance, if we also lowered the speed limit on a road that we know there's lots of cyclists?
We're going to lower the traffic too.
No,
That's part of it. It's not just speed. There's 3 or 4 different criteria that are involved in it. So it's not just speed. I will try with pavement, and again, the projects that they're doing this year to start widening.
Right, it's not perfect because you do have power poles, you have National Grid, and a lot of times those power poles are right near the macadam, and which creates all kinds of issues, and they hopscotch on each side of the road. So it's not like you even get one side of the road all the way on major stretch. So, and then you have the drainage as well, the drainage ditches and everything else. That being said, those where we have the opportunity to do something a little bit more, maybe it would be actually be cost effective to do it. I mean, I think it'd be an interesting analysis. All right, then.
I'll do it. I'll look for it.
That's a good discussion. Yes, Dan.
Quick comment.
Absolutely.
This is not about zero waste. I sit here just as a citizen worried about the climate crisis, and I wait for those words, climate crisis. I'm curious as to who in this committee is familiar with some New York State bills pertaining to climate and how it would impact the projects that Public Works does. It would be interesting as a citizen listening to this meeting to hear attention to that. That's that we're paying attention to climate more than we hear from our words. There is a climate crisis. The fires in Canada are devastating. The smoke has invaded our environment, and this committee deals with environment. So there's such a strong relationship between climate committee and our projects. And to hear the words climate crisis mentioned, stated, would be appreciated by me and I think other climate activists. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brimmer.
I would just encourage our public who's here in person or online to stay tuned for the next meeting where we will be talking about the county's efforts to combat the climate crisis. It's on our agenda.
Very good. With that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Bruno on the motion, Mr. Thomas on the second. All